Uh, we, in association with VIRAT Hindustan Sangham and also UDAYA News, Karnataka, powered by Good Neighbors NGO, are starting a free crash course for the benefit of competitive exam aspirants. So today is the first class. So I'll give you a brief introduction about this class, this series of classes. These classes are going to run for another 2 months, starting today until April 1st. So in these classes, I'm going to ensure the entire syllabus of civil services competitive exams would be covered. It may be for UPSC exams, KPSC, MPSC, PSI, FDA, SDA, or any exams for that matter. So the basic of all the concepts, all the topics would be covered in these 2 months. So this is named as a free crash course for competitive exams by VIRAT Hindustan Sangham in association with UDAYA News, Karnataka. This program is inspired by Dr. Subramania Swamy. So with his noble intentions, he wanted to start this program for the benefit of aspirants from past 1 year. So today the time has come together for this auspicious moment for the beginning of the program. So you will get a motivation speech by Dr. Swamy shortly on this program. So I am the chief mentor of your program, chief mentor DHANUSH Kumar. So I have expertise in civil services coaching for past 5 to 6 years. This is my photo. You can see this, nice and smiling. So you can watch this program online on the YouTube channel of VIRAT Hindustan Sangham at this link, youtube.com VIRAT Hindustan Sangham, and as well as on YouTube channel of UDAYA News Karnataka, www.youtube.com, by clicking this link. And also you can join our Telegram channel for free mentoring for all the civil services exams, all the competitive exams. So this is the link for the Telegram channel. Moving further, so again the same thing. So this program is being inaugurated today. So this is the brief timetable with syllabus of your program. So the classes will be held from 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. physically, that is in offline mode, but online will be telecast a little bit later, the same day. The same day it will be uploaded in the said YouTube channels, which I said earlier. So let's briefly go into the timetable along with the syllabus of the program. First, I'm going to start with Indian polity. So it is going to run from 28 January 2022, that is today, till 6th February 2022. In 10 days, in a span of 10 to 11 days, I'm going to ensure that your entire polity syllabus is covered. And thereafter, we are going to move into history. So there I will be doing modern history from 7th February till 16th February. Thereafter, Indian economy, 17th February till 25th February. Thereafter, geography, physical and human geography. It's going to start from 26th February till 5th March 2022. Later on, we are going to move into environment, and this is the dates, and later on into current events, whichever is important for your competitive exams. It may be SSC as well. And also later on into mental ability, that is your quantitative aptitude, logical reasoning, I'm not going to dwell very deep into it. I'm just going to give you some shortcuts, formulas, and also solve few problems. Lastly, with respect to general science. So basically, this syllabus is scientifically designed. So if you open the syllabus of UPSC Civil Services exam, these are the 8 sections you are going to have. So you can join this Telegram channel for free mentoring. Telegram, VHS Education, and also by clicking this QR code. Okay. Okay, fine. So what to expect out of these classes? What am I going to teach you? So this is not an in-depth class. So it may be for freshers or veterans. So how the veterans are going to make use of it? If you have read the entire syllabus by now, if you just watch the videos every day, it is going to revise the entire competitive exam general studies syllabus in a span of 2 months. That is 2 hours per day. How the freshers are going to use this program? Freshers are going to get a peek into the topics which they are supposed to study for the competitive exams. So it may be polity, history, geography. What are the basics they are supposed to study in the upcoming days so that they appear at the exams. So how to make best use of this course? So I will have to tell about my credibility before moving further. So I have given 4 civil attempts at UPSC Civil Services exam, out of which I have cleared all the 4 prelims, have appeared at 4 mains and cleared 2 mains and appeared at interview twice at the UPSC Civil Services exam personality test. So that is my credibility and to teach you. So how you are going to make use of this program? So you are going to either use it for revision of whatever you have studied already, or you are going to get a peek into the topics of all the subjects, concepts clearing. So basically I am going to clear the concepts, majority of the concepts in majority of the subjects. I am not going to dwell very deep into this, but give a brief overview along with clearing the concepts. So this is how you can utilize the course in the best possible way. So beginning with the class, that is today's class, which is Indian Polity. So this is the detail for the next detail program for next 10 days. So I'm going to basically deal with polity concepts. So starting today, that is 28th January, today I'm going to deal with Indian Constitution, origin, evolution, salient features. Then tomorrow I'm going to deal with fundamental rights, directive principles. Later on, duties, amendments, basic structure, it goes on. So basically, you are going to refer, so what is the source for it for all of you to study? So veterans would be knowing it already. The holy Lakshmikant, which is a good company for all civil services aspirants. Indian Polity by Lakshmikant. That is the simplest possible source and the best possible source which you can get in the market for covering the entire polity syllabus. So basically what I'm going to do in this program is, whatever has been taught in Lakshmikant, entire thing would be condensed, and all the concepts which are there in Lakshmikant, that is in Indian Polity, would be covered in detail. I mean briefly, so that all the concepts would be clear for you. So starting with Indian Constitution, let's begin the classes. So Indian Constitution. So first we are going to look at the historical background. Where did Indian Constitution start from? So, though the Constitution was enacted in 1950, it had its inklings in the British rule. So, British rule can be basically divided into two phases. One is the company rule and the second is the crown rule. That is the direct administration by Britain government. So company rule is going to start from 1773. So though the company came to India in the 1600s, that is in with the advent of East India Company. So for the next 150 years, they are going to conquer various parts of India, and they are going to wage various wars with various kingdoms, and they are going to establish a British Indian Empire. So the first act at regulating the affairs of India was enacted in 1773 by the British. So that is called as the Regulating Act 1773. Regulating Act of 1773. So it was done under the company's rule. So what are the features of this act? Basic features of this act. So Governor of Bengal was designated as Governor General of Bengal, and these governors of Bombay and Madras province were brought under the control of the Governor General of Bengal. And then, so there was a Supreme Court which was established in 1774, and it prohibited the servants of the company in engaging in private trade. These are the few of the provisions. So next we have Amending Act of 1781, and which is not so important from the perspective of competitive exams. Then the most important act is Pitt's India Act of 1784. So what are the important provisions of this Pitt's India Act? So it distinguishes between the commercial functions and the political functions of the company. So company was having political control over India. That is, they were ruling either directly or indirectly via the kings. That is the political control. So commercial control is what? The trade which they were doing, the revenues, land revenues they were getting from the Diwani rights. So all this is the commercial control. So these two were clearly divided in the Pitt's India Act. Along with this, there was a board of control and court of directors. So these court of directors were designated to manage the commercial affairs. Commercial affairs were managed by the court of directors, whereas board of control managed the political affairs. So both of these were divided. So after this you have the Act of 1786, which is not so important. Thereafter comes the Charter Act of 1793. That is also not very in-depthly required for competitive exams, but starting with the Charter Act 1813, the importance of regulating the affairs of India. So various interventions, various measures taken by the British for the welfare of citizens or the exploitation of the Indians. It starts basically from Charter Act of 1813. So here the trading provisions, trading monopoly which the East India Company had, since who granted the trading monopoly? Queen Elizabeth. She granted the trading monopoly. So that was abolished. So other companies were allowed to trade in India. So after that, over the company, the crown, British crown asserted its sovereignty, that the company is under the control of crown. So you are not an independent entity. So it also, peculiar thing about this act is it allowed 1 lakh rupees of sanction every year. 1 lakh of sanction for every year for the education of the natives. So educational reforms starts from 1813, Charter Act of 1813. So also the local governments were authorized to collect taxes. So these are few of the provisions. So moving on to the next important act, that is Charter Act of 1833. So here we have Governor of Bengal was designated as Governor General of India, and we have who was the first Governor General of India? It is William Bentinck. William Bentinck was the first Governor General of India. So there was Governor General of Bengal earlier. Who was the first Governor General of Bengal? It is Warren Hastings. So later on, Governor of Bombay and Madras were deprived of their legislative rights. So legislative rights, that is the power of making laws, is taken away from governors of Bengal and governors of Bombay and Madras, and given to Governor General of India, that is who was sitting at Bengal. After this, so this starts the trend of centralization, which peaks during which act? Okay, that is for you to find out. I will also tell later. So the commercial activities of the East India Company were ended by this act. So it purely remained a administrative political body from later on. So the one special factor of 1833 Charter Act is it tried to introduce a open competition for civil services exam. However, that was not materialized. So later on, the next important act is the Charter Act of 1853. So what do you mean by this charter? Charter means charter prepared in the British Parliament, which is enacted by the British Parliament. It's called as a Charter Act. So here, what are the main provisions of this act, the Charter Act of 1853? So here the legislative functions and the executive functions were clearly divided. So legislative function, that is the power of lawmaking, was for the first time treated as a special function, specialized function for which a central legislative council was formed. Along with this, it introduced open competition for civil services exam, the exam for all of you are aspiring to. This was introduced in open competition. Earlier, it was closed competition. British used to nominate the civil servants. Now it is everyone can attend this exam. After this, the next provision is it introduced for the first time local representation in the Indian Legislative Council. Local representation is what? Was it Indians who were allowed? No. The British who were heading various provinces were allowed to represent in the Legislative Council of the Indian Central Government. That is the Central Legislative Council. So after which the next thing is, the revolt of 1857, that is called as the first war of Indian independence, or famously put as the Sepoy Mutiny. Thereafter we see the Crown rule. So Crown takes over the administration of entire India. So thereafter, the first thing the Crown does was to enact a Government of India Act. So what is that act? It is called as Government of India Act of 1858. So this act is very important from the perspective of British control over India. So starting from here, till 1947. So it was, India was under the direct political control of Britain. So 1858, what act? What are the provisions? So it provided that India was to be governed by, in the name of Her Majesty, British Crown. In her name, India has to be administered. So the double government, that is Board of Control and Court of Directors, which was established by Pitt's India Act, was abolished. And office of Secretary of State, this office is very, very important. It plays a very significant role in Indian polity for the coming years to come after 1858. So this office was created. Who is the Secretary of State? He is a member of British Cabinet. And there was a council established to assist this British Secretary of State, and later on this council gets abolished in subsequent acts. We will see that. So after that, most important act is Indian Councils Act. Please note the difference. The acts which were enacted till 1857 were noted as Charter Acts, whereas the acts which were enacted after 1858 are called as Councils Act. What is this Indian Councils Act? So we saw that in 1853 there was Central Legislative Council. That council reforms was being done by this Indian Councils Act. So the first act is 1861 Act. What did it do? So for the first time, Indians were made to be associated with the council. So these Indians were members of high royal families, that is Rajas and British supporters, majorly Zamindars. And what was seen in 1833 Act, where the power of centralization had peaked, this was sought to be reversed by the Act of 1861. So decentralization started. The legislative power of Bombay and Chennai, Madras, which was back then, was restored. So, and also certain new legislative councils, that is as in Northwest Frontier Province, were established. So you see so many provisions like this, enacting of ordinance, everything. So this ordinance making power, that can be traced back to the Act of 1861. So 1861 Act made the provision for enacting the ordinance. Ordinance, I believe you know what is an ordinance. It's a form of instrument to enact law by the executive, bypassing the parliament, which has to be later ratified by the parliament within a span of 6 months, or else it ends. Okay. The next important act is Indian Councils Act, that is 1892. So what happens here? So in the central and provincial legislative council, which was there since 1861, the strength of these councils were extended. So legislative council powers were also increased at both the levels. Some nomination of some members were allowed for the legislative council. It's not election, it is nomination. That is, the government used to nominate certain people to these legislative councils. These are the few important provisions. So next comes the Act of Indian Councils Act 1909. So what is the important provision? It is called as Morley-Minto reforms. Lord Morley was the Secretary of State. Lord Minto was the Viceroy. So what is the features of this act, this Morley-Minto reforms? So again the strength of the legislative council was once again increased at both central and state level. However, I already told you there was a provision of nominating the non-officials. However, so the official majority was ensured even in this, and also deliberative functions like asking supplementary questions. You know, now we have the provision of asking questions in the parliament. So earlier, before this act, there was no provision of asking supplementary questions. So, which was especially on budget, which was now allowed. After this, so Indians were first time allowed to get associated with the Viceroy's Executive Council. So first, who is the first member who got into the Viceroy's Executive Council? It is S.P. Sinha. Not as in the movies, but as Satyendra Prasad Sinha. His name is Satyendra Prasad Sinha. So communal representation. This is the most important point of this act. What you saw as the partition in 1947 has its origin here. So communal representation, that is separate electorate for the Muslim community. That is, what is separate electorate? Only Muslims are going to vote for the members who are going to contest, and only Muslims are going to contest in those constituencies. So this is what meant by separate electorate, which is the most important provision of this act. Next comes the Government of India Act of 1919. So what happens in this act? So this act makes a provision for decentralization. I mean, provincial subjects and central subjects were totally divided. So what we see as union list and state list and concurrent list today has its origin in the 1919 Act. So central and provincial legislatures, the respective lists were divided. And at the provincial level, there was a division again at the level of the executive and legislature, as in reserved subjects and transferred subjects. So transferred subjects were to be administered by governor on the advice of the popular ministers, responsible ministers, whereas reserved subjects were at the discretion of the governor. So moving further, it introduced bicameralism at Indian central legislature. What you see as Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, that is your upper house and lower house, as its provision again in the Act of 1919. So in this way, this act becomes one of the most important acts. So 1919 Act gave way for formation of lower house and upper house, that is bicameralism. Then comes the provision of, so executive council was expanded. The number of members in the executive council was expanded, and communal electorate, which was extended to Muslims in 1909, was extended to Christians, Sikhs, and for the first time the power of voting, the provision of voting was allowed for the citizens, but voting was very limited. So based on property, the amount of tax or education, voting was allowed. So it also, whatever the commissions, State Service Commission or the Central Service Commission, Public Service Commission, that is the UPSC. So this act had the provision for establishing the Public Service Commission. So after this, to review this act in 1927, we have 1927 and 28, we have the arrival of Lord Simon Commission, who takes views from various quarters of the Indian society, meets various people and checks how the Act of 1919 is working and submits a report to the British Parliament. So what happens after this? We see the round table conferences occurring in England. Round table, how many conferences happen? 3 conferences, RTC 1, RTC 2, RTC 3. 1930, 1931, 1932, 3 years. So Congress attends only RTC 2, headed by Sri Mahatma Gandhi. Next comes, so here we have a